Hi everybody, sorry I can't be there today. Here's your Mindful Monday quote though, be the reason someone smiles. That's always nice to think about. You are going to need your calculators today, so if you don't have one, you're going to want to pause the video and go get it. At any point with the video, please feel free to pause it, especially because I enter things in the calculator pretty fast. So you can pause it to enter it in your calculator and then keep going. So here are your notes, and I'm going to flip to my calculator really quickly, but here are the steps that I'm following. So as I go through the calculator, I'm just following these steps on your calculator, and the goal is to get the max and min, and then we'll find the increasing and decreasing intervals that we practiced last week. And there actually are screenshots on your notes of what the graphs should look like, so we can use those and you can use it to write down some extra notes about the graphs. So go ahead, pause the video and type number 1 into your y equals. Now that you have it in your y1, we're going to hit second. Oops, not yet. Hit zoom 6. So this allows you to see the graph nicely. Now we're going to hit second trace, and let's do the maximum first. So that's option 4. The calculator is going to ask you for a left bound and a right bound, and then it's going to ask you for a guess. So go a little bit to the left of where you think the max is and hit enter. And then go a little bit to the right, hit enter, and then you can put your cursor where you think the max is as a guess. So the calculator is basically saying, hey, I need you to do most of the work and tell me where you think the max is, and then I'll tell you for sure. But here's your max. It gives you your x and y values, and it is as a decimal. So you can round. So the max would be the 1.71, then 3.41. So that would be our max. And then we're going to do the same thing, but for the minimum. So we have to go to second trace, and then option 3 is the minimum. So now I have to take my cursor a little bit to the left of where the minimum is, and then a little bit to the right of where the minimum is, and then a guess. So now again, they're still giving us decimals. So our min is 0.29 and 0.59. So that's our min. So you should have your max and min recorded on your note sheet now. So as far as the increasing and decreasing intervals, think of your roller coaster going from left to right. We are decreasing until we hit that minimum. Then we increase until we hit the maximum. And then we decrease again, all the way to infinity. So remember where your max and mins were. This was 1.71, 3.41. And the min was 0.29, 0.59. So your decreasing interval is from negative infinity to 0.29, and then it's also from 1.71 to infinity. You're using your x values here. Your increasing value starts at 0.29 and goes to 1.71. So again, think x values. All right, you can go ahead and put number 2 into your graph. So you can pause the video and put number 2 in there. Okay, here is example 2. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do zoom 6. And when you do zoom 6 for this one, you realize you can't really see much of the graph. So you want to go to window at the top, and let's get our max to 20 for the y. So we want to be able to see further up on the y-axis. So go ahead and hit graph, and then we see a lot more of the graph. Unfortunately, because of the square root, it can cause some issues with our end point. So you can see my calculator kind of looks a little strange at the end point. That happens, so we just want to do our best. There's also going to be some rounding issues in this one. So let's do second calc, or second trace to get calc. Let's do the maximum first, so that's option 4. So I need to go over to my max and get the left bound. Enter, and then go over to the right, enter, and a guess. All right, this is negative 0.3999999. So let's round this to negative 4, because it is going to round up to negative 4. So for your max, we will say negative 4, and then y is 16. All right, so there's your maximum. Go ahead and pause the video and do the same thing for your minimum. Now, when I do the minimum, you're going to notice we get a funky x value. So I'm left bound, right bound, and a guess. This minimum is in scientific notation, so that e to the negative 6 is like 10 to the negative 6. So what's happening is this decimal point, if you can remember from your scientific notation days, is moving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to the left, and it's all filled in with zeros. So this is a really small number for your minimum, so we are going to round it to 0. So this is actually going to be 0.8 for your minimum. All right, and then another thing that I want us to look at is our endpoint here. The best thing to do to take care of that is to look at the table. So go ahead and hit second graph so that you get to your table. Notice that we do have errors because the graph does not exist at that section of the graph for those x values. But here we have negative 5.8. So that is our starting point that we're going to use when we look at this graph. So I'm back on the graph. We have negative 5.8 for that starting point. Our max was negative 417, and our min was 0.8. Now we need our intervals of increase and decrease. So we're increasing 2 places, and we are decreasing during 1 interval. So for our increasing, we increase from the x values of negative 5 to negative 4, and then also the x values of 0 to infinity. Decreasing is only from x values negative 4 to 0. Awesome. I would like you to pause the video and try number 3 on the back of your notes. And I am going to let you check your final answer. Notice it does say to adjust the window. So your relative max should be 5 and then 15.5. There is no minimum. Your decreasing interval is from the x values of 5 to infinity. Your increasing is from negative infinity to 5. All right, for the rest of class today, you can work on your homework, and I will warn you, number 63 is pretty challenging, but I really want you to do your best to create that graph, and you can work with others. We're going to go over it tomorrow and also have another practice problem for a problem very similar to number 63. So do your best, and we'll see what you come up with, and I'll see you tomorrow.